Welcome back to another episode of the Four Inside Podcast, episode 14. Great episode in store for y'all. Once again, family edition. Joining me is joining me is my older sister, Vivian Obi. Vivian, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. So today's topic, especially us still living in the COVID-19 world, us, dealing with challenges, careers evolving.
Yeah.
Both you and myself did not have straightforward career paths, a lot of changes, a lot of refocusing and figuring out life as we know it, understanding what we wanted to do. And so finding your ideal career path is something that I think a lot of people struggle with. For me, dealing with, what I had to with just in jobs and understanding who I was as a person and developing self identity, I think there's a lot of factors that go into someone picking a career path. But where I want to start off with is in your upbringing, you're a person who I always known when it came to work, you always knew what you did and what you didn't want to do, at least as far as life is concerned. So just talk about how our upbringing in our household shaped you into the person you are today.
So I think like as it pertains to careers, our upbringing, it played a big influence just because I think I always grew up thinking like, well, you have to make a lot of money and you have to have job security. I would say that the latter, that second one is more important than the first. I think you have to make a lot of money is really relative to like what you want your life to be. If you're somebody who you want to go to Europe for vacation and stay at the best hotels and, you want your kids to go to the best private school, then yeah, making a lot of money is important. But if you're somebody who your career is about just, bankrolling your lifestyle, whether it's, one Disney World vacation every 3 years, or, just having a good house and, a stable neighborhood, it's not that you don't have to necessarily make six figures to make that kind of money, to have that kind of life. So I think that our upbringing definitely, growing up, I always thought I have to make good six figures at least, make good money, be upper middle class, be wealthy, whatever that means. And I had to outgrow that, maybe around, even I think our cousin Adana, who's a doctor, she was kind of the first person who even like planted that seed, like, oh yeah, making a lot of money is important, quote unquote. Like she knew, she's older than us. She knew like that's not a sustainable way to navigate a career. So I think for me, our upbringing, and it wasn't necessarily like our parents, it was just kind of like, I think the cultural narrative that we kind of grew up in our, social groups and stuff, that's kind of what they expect for, people our age, the next generation is like, be successful, make good money. And it wasn't until maybe I got to maybe like early 20s, I was like, money is important, but it can't be, I can't make a lot of money at the detriment of like my personal life goals, what I want, or my personal life goals, or at the expense of me having a job that I cannot stand to go to every day. So.
But what do you say though? Because a lot of people's rebuttal, especially older people, is that, well, it's not about what you like. It's about having a job that sustains a good living and a good, income. That's what it's about. So what do you say to people who give you that rebuttal?
I mean, I think that it depends, and you have to really, I heard that all the time. Job isn't about what you like, and it's like, I mean, that depends who you ask. Some people, don't care. They like, I want to be a pharmacist because I make a lot of money. It's a stable job, and I don't care if I don't like it. They don't also hate their jobs. Most people, I don't think, can go to a job and do something they don't like because they're every day for 30 years. I don't think that's sustainable. So even if, people say, well, job isn't about what you like, it's at least about something you can do for a long time. And I think that, our generation, we really are eschewing that line of thinking because like, we know, like, we cannot, like, my first job out of college, it made me really consider, like, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? And it wasn't that I had a bad job. I think it was just, that job was really just to teach me, like, even if you don't have like a dream job title, you need to figure out how your career can work for you. Yeah. Like, it needs to be like, I'm not just going to be, you know what I mean? Like, it has to be a two-way street. It has to be, you have to make the most out of your career, whatever that is. And you have to make sure that your career can help you get to your personal life goals as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, especially with my life, I think, understanding who you are as a person and what you want out of life, what you touched on. I think those are the biggest things, right? What type of lifestyle do you want? And then from there, you then can say, okay, based off of the fact that I want this for myself, how do I get there? You have
Hmm.
to be real with yourself, and you have to understand the work that it'll take to get there. If you're perfectly content, and everybody's definition of success is different, so you can't live your life in the eyes of somebody else or based off somebody else's narrative or example. You have to say, okay, I define my life based off of this is what it'll look like. This is what my family dynamics. If I decide to have a family or get married or have
Yeah.
children, all of those things have to. You have to sit down. You have to be real with yourself and assess all of those things. I think where people feel like they failed or don't really feel fulfilled in life is whenever, like you said, they're doing something. Maybe it does make a lot of money, but that's not what's bringing them joy. That's not what's fueling their fire to wake up in the morning. One of the greatest quotes I've seen is like, when you don't have to use an alarm clock to get up in the morning, that's how you know you're doing something you love, right? Or that's how you know you're fulfilling your purpose in life. If you're having to always kind of like drag to get up and go get ready for work or whatever you do for a living, then you might not be in the right job, or maybe that's part of it. Um, and, again, understanding what it'll take to get to a certain lifestyle, I think also is a big thing. People who want to live in big houses or want to travel or buy expensive things or fancy things or live lavish lifestyles, but then they don't want to put in the work. They don't want to go to school. They don't want to go to a job. They don't want to take out the loans for school if that's what it requires, right? If they don't want to put in the work, if they don't want to do the steps, then they can't be angry at, oh well, I don't have this 10-star lifestyle, but I only want to put in a 5-star effort.
Yeah.
I think is the main thing. Um, and again, people they know what they want. They know who they are. Nobody else can tell you. And I think that's the main thing I had to figure out is that, while okay, this life could be this path, could be beneficial for me. This could work. Is that really what fuels me? And you have to take it on by yourself because you're the one who's going to be living the life in the end, right? People can give you all the suggestions they want. You can listen to all the suggestions they want, but if you listen to everybody but yourself, you're going to have a whole bunch of different, avenues that you're going to be having to deal with, and you'll never really understand what you want. And the person you see in the mirror in the morning, is who you have to answer to at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's true. I think that kind of when I think people, make their not make, but people kind of cater their career decisions around like what will my parents think, what will my community think. I want to keep up with the Joneses, which is like I want to have the house, I want to have the cars, this, and that. And the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, people don't realize that I've realized is like those things or people or whatever that you think you're answering to, there's always going to be something with them. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, the bar is always going to shift. It's
Yeah.
gonna be, you have to live in this neighborhood. Then you have to have this car. Then you have to have that car. Then you have to have a second house here. Then you have to make sure your kids go here for school. Then you have to make sure you vacation at this hotel and this island. So the thing is, you have to realize that like in as much as people can influence you, can inspire you,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's important to understand what's inspiring you and what's kind of pressuring you in a way
Yeah.
to do something you don't want to do. Or do you want to be a doctor, or do you want your parents to be able to tell their friends you're a doctor, tell their friends you're a doctor, like you know what I mean?
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
what is it like?
Or does that competition anxiety, does that fuel you? Because if that's the case, then that's fine, right? If you are a person where it's like, I'm looking around me, I'm looking at my peers, and what motivates me is being the best out of my group, then so be it. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, and we're like, it's not about, oh, you have to be this way. Again, you just have to be content and understand what you're getting out of the decisions you're making out of life. You know, if you are a person who says, my parents want me to do this, so I'm going to do it, and you're okay with that, so be it. If,
Definitely.
but if it's like my parents are telling me to do X, but I want to do Y, but I'm going
Yeah.
to go ahead and do X because that'll bring them happiness, but I'm really not bought into it. You'll do it, and you won't be bought. You won't really have joy, and then at the end of life, whenever your parents aren't there to watch over you anymore, whenever they're not there to tell you what to do, you'll be lost, and you won't really. And then you've wasted all that time, doing all that studying, doing all that reading, only to be at a crossroads where you're like, I don't know why I chose this profession, and then now you're unfulfilled. Now you got to start all over. Now
Yeah.
you know, and no experience is wasted, but
Yeah.
those are years that you could have been, building something else, or you could have been elevating and something that you really enjoy. And it's unfortunate to see people where it's like they're living for somebody else. It doesn't have to be a parent; it could be for whomever. Instead of saying, "Man, this is my path. I'm going to pave it," and I'll be able to live with the consequences. That's one thing for me. Especially once I got to college, and once I changed my major, that was that point where it was like, okay, no, I got to take control of this because this path A that I'm on is not working. And so I have to figure out something else.
Yeah, I mean, you have to realize when you're making any decision, whether it's, a job, buying a car, getting married, moving to a new place, like no matter how big or small, people can only influence you so much. At the end of the day, you're the one who has to go to that job every day, drive that car every day, live in that house. So you have to make sure, like, does this fit for me? Is this what I want? Or is it what somebody else wants and I'm okay doing that thing for them?
Hmm. Now, a big part of people kind of starting off that journey of finding their ideal career is the major that they pick out of high school. So where they see themselves once they graduate high school, if they decide, that they want to finish. So for you, when you finished at Pearland High School in 2009, what was life like at that time? I know you started off in pharmacy. So just talk about where you were at that stage and what you saw life as at that moment and how it changed.
So when I always thought, I was going to work in health sciences, but I never really like cared for my health science classes. Like I took biology, I took chemistry, and I was just like, I'm not a science person. Like I find it interesting. I don't care. Like it's not that I don't care, but I was just like,
It's not driving you.
this isn't. I mean, it's like I'm learning. That's cool, but like I don't care. Like I'm like, okay, am I doing good in these classes? Am I getting these grades? Cool. It wasn't until I took a government class my senior year,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh wow, this is actually really interesting, like civics, the government, how it works, international relations, blah blah blah. And at that time, Obama had just won the presidency.
Hmm.
So that my first semester of my semester in that class was the same time that he got inaugurated. So we were seeing, the first Black president being sworn in, and I'm taking this class. And I'm more in tune and I'm more interested in government ever than before because we have a Black president. Like
Hmm.
after that class and after Obama was like sworn became president, like I was so into government, history, politics, all that stuff. Um, and so I was at a place when I went to college, like, okay, I don't care about health science. I don't want to be a pharmacist. I mean, they make good money, but that's really my only interest in it. I guess I was like, oh, well, maybe, drugs and the reactions in the body and things like that, infectious disease, that's cool. But again, I wasn't like, I didn't, it was really just like for the money that I was going to do it. So then I did my first semester in college. I did biology and chemistry in college. I was miserable. I hated it. I was like, bro, like, I cannot do this. Like, this is not for me. I was so like, if you ask my close friends, like, from U of H,
Hmm.
they would say like who I was like freshman year that semester and like who I am now, night and day. Even the person from who I was when I was from that semester into my semester as a business major, totally different. I
Yeah.
don't actually know why I chose to go into business. I think I just had always been good with like money, finances. It kind of came naturally to me. So
Hmm.
I'm going to change to business, and that's just that. So that's kind of like how I transitioned. I always knew I never really wanted to be in health science, but again, we were kind of like told like, well, it's about job stability, it's about making good money, and it's not about what you like.
Hmm.
And so I was just like, well, I can't do what I don't like because I literally cannot. I can do these classes. I physically cannot imagine doing another biology class.
Right.
Especially as I was somebody that was like used to always making good grades. Like I always made good grades.
Yeah.
So for me, the like struggle, it was like this is a sign I don't need to be doing this. And
Right.
it's not to say that I didn't struggle in an economics class or an accounting class, but like it wasn't like I wasn't like dreading those like the subject. Not that I was dreading sciences, but I was just kind of like I don't care about this. Like I just don't care. So that's kind of why I transitioned in from health sciences to business.
Mhm.
And honestly, that like I think in life you kind of have like pivotal decisions that like are like the best decisions you make. That's definitely like one of the best decisions I made because it like helped me transition into like the person I am now.
Yeah. I mean, my career path, my major path, all of that was just it was a maze. I always talk about I see life as a maze. That's how my brain thinks. That's how I see it. It's this complex, series of decisions that happen. And so for me at that time, I mean, I was new at my high school. I kind of was in there thinking, okay, I'm in here for 4 years and then I'm out of here. And maybe that was the wrong mentality to have, but it was what it was. And just going through high school, one thing I've always known this since I was just small and I could start thinking. One thing I loved was to be able to interact with people like I'm doing now, and like be able to talk to people, be able to coach people. That's the way I saw life. That's the way I saw sports. I talk about I was a coach on the floor, on the field, communicating. Being able to bring people together, being able to acquire knowledge and pass it to others. Right. So at the time, I was like, well, okay, what profession could you do that gives you that type of lifestyle, and also you can make good money. I was like, okay, coaching, right? Now, I said that in the beginning, and then what gets introduced is, oh, well, coaches don't make that much money, and it's not that good, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, that's out of it. Well, what's good? Medical school or, getting into the medical field. It's like, all right, but 12 years of doing this again? I'm like, nah, because my whole thing was I could do math, like I was good at math. I was good at science, but certain sciences I was good at. Certain ones I was like, I'm not really too fond of it. Like biology, I could equate biology to working out. That's why I liked it. Like the way the body works, the way the body is constructed, all those things I could equate to working out. And so it was easy for me. And I had a good biology teacher, right? So I was like, okay, maybe I could do this medical school thing and just, stick with the biology thing. So I graduated college and I'm like, okay, the one science that I actually kind of have an affinity for is bio, right? So I decided to be a bio major in the beginning. And, I go to JUCO and, I do my prereqs, I do bio, I do fine in it. I took chemistry. Chemistry was always one of those things like I can't see chemistry. Like, I mean, I can do the equations, I can do the problems, I can do the formulas. And, we have a scientist for a dad, so he helped me a lot. But in terms of being able to see it visually, that's one thing I always struggled with chemistry. And then when I transferred to university, the bio program just wasn't. It didn't cater to the way I thought. I felt that they did a very poor job of, you know, teaching, honestly. Like, one thing I felt with college is that, and this is the one thing I have a problem with, is teachers expect you to teach yourself, which I understand that to a degree, but I'm like, I don't understand why I'm paying money to teach myself if I could just acquire the knowledge through other texts or through other sources of information and teach myself it, right? And find it that way. But nonetheless, I just got to a point where I was like, this bio stuff isn't going to work. Like, me learning this for 2 more years or 4 more years and then me have to go to med school, something got to change. This is not going to work, right? And being able to tell myself that and be able to come to that conclusion on my own. Because, in the beginning, it was kind of like, well, but what if I, change majors? How's that going to look? And then I was like, no, this, I have to do it for myself. And so just coming to that decision. And that was honestly the best decision I made because, like you said, that was the first time I felt like I really took control of life, and said, okay,
Yeah, first time you
my
take it
decision,
in life.
yeah, my decision, and it kind of helped life gain more clarity, right? So I go and I look up different majors. I'm like, well, health, right? Been into health, been into fitness, into lifting weights, and it's still kind of tied, right? So I'm like, this encompasses everything, and it's complex, like the way my brain thinks. Okay, well, how can I reach a large setting of people? Public health, right? Bang. I was like, let me change my major over to that. So I changed my major to public health, and instantly 180 change, the way that the class is structured, where it was based on conversation, which is something I love to do. Um, there were multiple ways to think, and also there are multiple different perspectives, which is something I love to do. Like being able to hear different people's stories, being able to hear the pathways, all of those things is like, okay, this is what I want to do, right? Something involved in this, right?
Yeah.
And so again, all that is to say, it's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be straightforward, but just the biggest thing is being able to understand what you want, and knowing it and taking that by the reins. If you try to live for somebody else or for some other group or for something that you aren't genuinely into, your life's going to be messed up, and you're not gonna feel like yourself. Honestly,
Yeah.
you're going to be feeling like you're living for somebody else. You're not going to have any passion. You're not going to have any drive. There's not going to be that fire that burns on you to go get up and work every day and do things.
Yeah, definitely.
So, on top of, finding a major and finishing college, you know, you were a person who did internships. You worked for the State Department. You were also in Oklahoma. So talk about the importance of internships in your opinion.
So I can't really speak to like healthcare because healthcare is so different. But I think my school, U of H, University of Houston, had a huge alumni network for not marketing, engineering and business. So
Mm-hmm.
the engineering and business schools had a lot of recruiting out of like the local companies that were here. Houston is a city with a lot of oil and gas influence, or a lot of oil and gas companies. So a lot of oil and gas companies are hiring engineers, and they're hiring financial analysts, marketing analysts, like they're hiring people. And because, they recruit out of the biggest schools in the state. So that's U of H, UT, A&M, Tech, Rice. And so for me, internships were invaluable because, and it's funny, like the first semester that I was a business major was when I serendipitously came across somebody who, I was an RA. Our mom forced me to be, not forced, but she was like, you need to apply to be an RA. And I was like, I won't even get it. And then I got it. And I was like, oh. And then, so like another RA that I worked with, that I had to do an event with, she was like, oh, I'm going to do a student event together about this. And the person who was hosting the event worked at the State Department. And that's how I was like, I was like, well, I like history, politics, and government. And so she was like, apply to our internship. So I applied to the internship, and it was like that. From there was kind of like my like career kind of took off because that opened a door to work at oil and gas company I worked at, because they were like, oh, you were at the State Department last summer. And I was like, yeah. And then like, oh, you're an RA too. Like those things were like, yeah, mom was right, because moms are always right. But those things were like, mom was like, people are gonna do that and be like, oh, that's impressive, you should do that.
Yeah.
That happened. So I always, spent the summer working. I did 2 internships with the oil and gas, one in Houston, one in Oklahoma. I did the State Department in DC the summer after sophomore year. And it was invaluable. I had a lot of experience, and I was able to, be fortunate enough to have a full-time job offer before I left. Before I started my last semester in college, I had a job offer. And that's sometimes people are recruiting like literally up until graduation. So I was really blessed in that space. But for a business person, and I would think maybe for engineering as well, it's really important to do internships. You're networking, you're meeting people, you're expanding, you're gaining, like you're kind of seeing what you would be doing every day. And then also you're learning how to, maneuver a workplace. A lot of like corporate job structure is, how do you relate to people? What soft skills do you have? Are you a communicator? Are you not easy to work with, but are you somebody who can work effectively on a team? Mm-hmm. These are the things that internships teach you. And this is why they're important. And it helps you when you're transitioning from full-time to like from college to full-time. The transition is less steep because you've already spent 3 months, 2 months working in a corporate environment with all sorts of people. So internships are really important because they help you network, and that helps you with job prospects after college, after school. And then also it helps you transition into full-time work life. So my internships were really valuable in
Yeah,
college.
and I can take it even further. I mean, so when I was a senior, part of your final years, you have to do an internship as part of your graduation plan, right? And just internships, and the people especially today's day and age where connections are everything. Internships help you get in the door with multiple jobs. I was a person who had to spend some time looking for jobs. Commonly, did one internship out of college. But had I looking back on it, if I had gotten into more things, I'd have had more connections to be able to say, look, I work for here, I work for here, I work for here. Let me see if I can just call these people who are my higher ups, you know. Um, and also just being in the setting, like you said, being able to see what it is like, see what the job is like, see what the profession is like. This is what your degree can get you, right? This is the type of work environment, the type of lifestyle, the type of people you're going to be working around and with. This is the type of people you're going to be connected with, and this is who you're going to be serving as well, or what you're going to be serving. All those things you kind of are exposed to, and I think you kind of get a clearer view to see, okay, is this something I want to do, or is this something I don't want to do? If you get out and you're wide-eyed, you just got this degree in whatever you get, whether it be engineering, whether it be health, whether it be bio, you don't really know what jobs you're looking at or you're looking at getting into. And then you get a job and then it's like, wait a minute, this isn't what I thought this would be. And then you got to go back and you got to go back to the drawing board and start all over again. Some people I know had to do that and go back to school, have to spend more of their money and more of their time,
Yeah.
because they were like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. Right. And just the importance doing your research as far as jobs are concerned. Like, again, knowing what lifestyle you want. Okay, what kind of job can I do? Knowing your personality type, like you said. Am I introverted? Am I extroverted? Okay, if I'm introverted, want to work in a setting where I don't have to interact with too many things, too many people. If I'm extroverted and I know I have an open personality, okay, what kind of jobs get me into that? Looking at what your personality type can get to, and then understanding, okay, what do I want out of this profession? Do I want a profession where I'm stable, I can live on ritual, I just get up and go to work and come home, or do
Yeah.
I want to be able to travel through my job,
Yeah.
right? I know for me, being that I recently got into traveling through you, like you traveling and you coming back and telling me your experiences and then us going on a cruise. I was like, yeah, I definitely want to be able to travel when I want to
Yeah.
with any job, you know what I'm saying? And, I think just being able to, see different things, understand different things, helps people kind of create a clearer view. If you never experienced anything, you just did one thing your whole life, you didn't know that these other
Because
aspects are possible.
yeah, no, I was gonna say like that's a good point. Like I don't think I would have been well suited for like a people facing healthcare job. I think I would have been somebody who maybe I would have been like a nurse for a pharmacist or a nurse for a couple of years, and then I would have transitioned into like administrative or like something more like in the back half, because I'm more like I want to like see a problem
Mhm.
and how do we like enhance, how do we make it better, how do we fix it, like what's driving the problem. I want to look at data.
Yeah.
So and some people cannot do like my job,
Mhm.
like a job where I'm looking at data. I'm, working with people to like figure it out. Some people I know want to like be busy, like they want to be doing something different every day. They want to be people facing and like talk to customers, So it's important that people are honest with themselves and say like, this is not like if you're a super extrovert and you want to work with people,
Mhm.
being a, being certain things is not gonna work for you, because you're gonna unless, which is something I don't know if it's on the list to talk about, but unless you are somebody who you kind of like you said, this is my 9 to 5, this helps me travel when I want to travel, save up, buy a house, have this car, blah blah blah. My outside of that, I do X, Y, and Z. So if you're somebody who is like at a desk all day and you're doing IT, you're IMing people, minimal interaction. But then on the weekends, you coach little league, you're a youth pastor, you're a volunteer, like you volunteer with certain things that are people facing. You can find fulfillment outside of your job that still kind of feels like you're working, like a part of your career, part of your identity. So that's another thing to do. I think about like, Some people, their 9 to 5 defines their who they are.
Yeah.
I'm a doctor. I'm a CEO. I'm a dentist. Like this is like who I am. Some people, their 9 to 5 is like this just allows me to live this kind of life, and who I am is a youth pastor, a mom, a a I teach English, whatever. I'm a mission worker, whatever. And it's their outside that defines that who they are, and then their 9 to 5 or the day job, whatever, is just part of what they have to do to kind of have that lifestyle.
Yeah, so let's get into that because that's actually a good point, and that's something I think about. So, like you just said, I'm the latter. I got to a point, and I've kind of always understood this about myself. I didn't want to be defined by what my profession was. I never wanted to be that way. I don't want to be only defined as a doctor, a engineer. Like that's all I did. I've always admired people who took on a bunch of different realms. You look at a guy like Jamie Foxx, actor and comedian and musician, and like that type of stuff is cool. And you tackle a wider range of things. And so for me, I always kind of understood that whatever I do for a job or for a profession, that's just the principle that enables me to finance everything else. What I enjoy is everything I do outside of work. And I understood and I learned that you can do both. I think that sometimes doesn't get explained, that your job doesn't just have to be your job. You can decide to do your hobbies outside of that, and your hobbies can make you money if you understand how to profit from them.
Yeah.
And again,
I hustle mentality that a lot of people our age are doing. Like people don't necessarily want to like give up their full-time job, healthcare benefits to be a comedian.
mhm,
That they'll do it for they'll do a accounting job for 10 years until they'll do the accounting job for 10 years. They'll do the comedianship in tandem,
mhm,
and then once they get to a point where their comedian career is like taking off, they'll quit.
mhm,
It doesn't have to necessarily be that or like this quote unquote, what do they call like the artist, like starving artists, like
yeah,
you can. And the people who do that, I respect them because that's hard. I really
yeah.
like, I
And
think
it's not
it's like you're really betting on yourself. But I think you see now more people like, I'm gonna be comfortable. I'm gonna try to be as comfortable as possible until I can't, and then I'm gonna like bet on myself. But I'm gonna have like a nest egg, so to speak.
Yeah. Now, with that though, because this is an interesting sort of dilemma, then, do you think that you can really do two things? Because a lot of people would argue that, well, you're not fully invested. You're kind of trying to have a safety net, if you will, instead of going all in and being a comedian. Now, I don't agree with that, but that's a common argument. So, what do you think about that?
I agree with you. I don't think that's true at all. I think that you can, because then that would say like, well, like if you're somebody who, you're a nurse full time, but then you want to be let's see, a comedian. We'll just go with the comedian example.
Hmm.
I don't see why you can't be a nurse and a comedian. If because the thing is, okay, like a nurse, for example, they don't work, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. They work Tuesday through Saturday, 8 to 10 or whatever. So on their off time, they can do what they want. And so they'll write jokes, they'll go do shows, they'll do different things. I don't see why you can't do both.
Yeah.
Like you have to kind of, I think, yeah, I don't see that argument. Like I think even if even if you're successful, you're doing whatever, like if you're successful at your side hustle or whatever, like there's no reason why you can't be a comedian, a nurse, a youth pastor, like, you know what I mean? A writer. Like, why can't you have your eggs in multiple hats?
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's a smarter route to have multiple eggs in baskets. You don't have to put
Yeah.
all in one. And if anything, like especially you see this with especially nowadays, trying to create passive income, right? Not just having your job be the only source of money. If money is a big thing for you, which um, for me, it wasn't when I was younger, but then as I got older and started to understand, like, money is a necessity, right? I was like, okay, well, let's still keep the main thing from the standpoint of, you know, I don't want my job to define me. So I want to have something where it makes good money, but then it also enables me flexibility to be able to do the other things that I want. So that would be stuff like, okay, I know I like, interacting with people. I know I like podcasting. I know I'd like to exercise, be able to exercise, do all those things. So Okay, what job can do that? I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to be a doctor because I don't want to spend 12 more years, but it's a good job.
Hmm.
Boom, nursing, right? Bang, nurses, good profession. You still can help people, which is part of my purpose,
Yeah.
and it has a good schedule, good flexible scheduling. I don't mind. It's part of me too. I don't mind working longer hours if that means I can work less days. You can do that with. So all those things, I was like, okay, nursing gives me access to do and help people, gives me access to still have flexibility with my scheduling. Okay, bang, perfect. And then if I still want to, I can take that and expand that, and go one step further, be nurse practitioner, or you can decide to run a whole operation if you want to. So that's how I got to that. That's how I got to that stage, and that's where I am now. And just again understanding what I want out of life, and then from there, okay, with that time that I have to do other things, okay, what I want to do, what else am I into? Podcasting, exercising, coaching, right? All those things. So now I just have the ability to do all those other things, and then learn about investing, learning about creating passive income. And that's how you generate wealth, and that you don't have to spend all your time working for money. Your money can work for you.
Yeah, that's true. I like what you said about purpose. 'Cause that's really hard to like find. Like, what is my purpose? Like, my purpose is to help people. My purpose is to make people laugh. My purpose is to be a billionaire. Like, it's hard to find. It's hard to find your purpose, especially at a young age. I mean, me, I'm almost 29. I don't know. I know. I think my purpose is to help people, but I don't know how. So, you have to kind of. It's hard to find that, and it takes a lot of soul searching, a lot of self reflection and introspection. And I think if we always kind of like always kind of like expands or changes, but the base of what you feel like you're called to do or what you're here to do more so stays the same. It's just kind of like the way you go about doing it throughout the years changes. That's
Yeah,
really the purpose. Because like if you're somebody who like wants to make as much money as possible, like maybe you need to go into like investment banking and like invest six figures in an MBA from Harvard, and so that way you can like build your wealth, and you can make money and you do different things. Maybe that's what you have to do. Like you have to figure out like what it is like you want to do on this earth.
yeah, and I think for me, what happened is, again, my purpose. I always kind of knew what it was. I mean, even from a young age, you and Bernard and Serafino always saw like what I always used to talk about. Ooh, I coached this person. Or, ooh, I talked about this. I talked about that. But then it was like, well, your purpose was kind of put down from older people saying, well, it can't make that much money. Okay, at that time, but then you try to find something else. And when you know what you want to do with life, and then you try to do something else, it can't. Like for me, I couldn't. I was just like, no, that's not what I was destined to do. I know what I was destined to do. It's the same thing. It hasn't changed. I'm fixated on it. Okay, well, let me research how my purpose can be financially, can be profitable.
Yeah,
And now I found a way for it to be. And, now my biggest thing is try to get other people who are struggling with finding their mission in life, or for people who think, oh well, I can't do it. I'm like, yes you can. Try. I'm a living example of it. This is why I do this, because I don't want to be a person who doesn't practice what they preach and say, well, I you know really would prefer to do this, but I'm doing this instead. I'm like, no,
yeah,
people won't be able to take you seriously. No, I do this because I love to do it, and I'm a living example of you can do what you love, and also, um, you know, you can do what you love and also make money from it. Now again, if you're a person who wants to be a millionaire, go find people who are millionaires and learn from them. And that's the thing. Learn from people who are doing it. If you want to get into investing in banking, learn from people who are investment bankers. It doesn't make any
exactly.
sense to not want to seek mentors. And I think that's another thing too. Being willing to ask for help and ask for, advice and things like that. Like I've always been a curious mind. Where I'm like, nope, I need to know this. Okay, who do I know who has it? Okay, traveling. Vivian, Vivian, what did you do for this, and this? Or, if it's football related, I went to Bernard. If it's life related, I went to mom or dad or whomever. Always trying to learn and always trying to evolve and adapt and acquire knowledge. Knowledge is power. I've always believed that. And so the more you know, the clearer view life is. I feel.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that yeah, mentor is important. And I not even necessarily like mentors, because I never really had like an official mentor, but I just had like women in my life who I looked up to, like Adana and Tam, Miata, like just women who were I thought I perceive them, and I think they are. They're successful, they're independent, they live interesting lives, they have interesting life experiences. To me, that's kind of like I think experience is the most important thing in life. I think that it's like you should do things that you never thought you would do. You should see things you never thought you would see. For me, I go about that a lot with travel, just like meeting people and like talking to people in different places and different cultures. But yeah, looking at them and just kind of seeing like how they navigated their career path. They all work in two work in healthcare and one is a lawyer.
Mm.
So not anything I not really related to like what I do, but I for me it was like how did you get to where you are? Like how did you get to where you are? Because for me, y'all have kind of the kind of life I want. You're independent, you make a good salary, you actually like what you do. So
Mm.
how did you guys go about that? It's always important to look at people who kind of have not necessarily have the life you want, but who you admire, and you're like, oh wow, I like what they're doing, I like what they're up to, and just talk to them, emulate them, keep in touch with them. So that way you kind of understand what you need to do on your end to kind of follow in their footsteps more so to speak.
Yeah, and I mean, we can even look at it. For me, looking at our parents first. Like, I didn't understand it when I was small, but as I got older, I was like, okay, Dad does his engineering stuff because he literally loves it. Like, it drives him. That's why, like, I used to look at him and be like, bro, how are you up at 2 in the morning and you're still working, and then you got to get up at 6 to go to work? But it's like he doesn't see it really as work. I mean, he understood that it's a profession and it's a career, so you had to do what you had to do. But it's like, no, like, I like to do. This is why, like, after you retire, you wrote a book. It's like, because I still like to do this type of stuff. So I understood whatever you do have to enjoy it to some degree. Otherwise, it'd have been miserable for him, right? With our mom, she's a pharmacist, you know, same thing. Like, she loves, first off, what it provides for her job, and she loves what she does, and so I see that, and then I see Bernard, doing what he does. He's living his life. He's living the lifestyle he wants. He's doing his thing. You're doing your thing, and I'm just like, okay. Then also outside of the family, because sometimes your family you really don't understand because like, well, I see y'all all the time. Let me try to find people who are different, right? And then I look at my friends Alex and Chris. It's like one's an engineer, one works for medical technology, and it's the same thing. Like, they love what they do. They love the lifestyle they live, and they're comfortable. They walk with confidence, and they are sure of themselves. They know what they wanted to do, and they're doing it. And sure enough, I just think that being able to be around people who first off have good outlooks on life and are willing to kind of share knowledge and be an embodiment. You want to see examples first off that reinforce your beliefs as far as um, okay, I can do this because my peers have done it. There's nothing that I can't do. If I want to do this profession, then I'm gonna give it my all and achieve my goals. Right.
Yeah, it's true. Like you have to, yeah, seeing examples is important.
So on to the next thing. It's like uh, I know in school, in grade school, me and Nick have talked about this. My friend Nicholas, uh, how grade school really doesn't, in our opinion, prepare people for life, like to be an adult. If anything, I feel like grade school largely prepares people to be workers, like to live in a to work in a factory, to work, regular 9 to 5 jobs. You look at it, okay, you get up at 7, you go to school. School generally starts around 7:30, 8 o'clock. You're there for 8 hours. You get a lunch break, right? When you're young, you get a recess, and then you don't get recess once you get to high school. So they're sort of evolving you into being an adult and working a regular 9 to 5, instead of really preparing you and teaching you real life lessons like how to pay a mortgage, what are taxes, what is healthcare, what is Medicare, all those different things. You learn those largely when you get to college, but not everybody goes to college. One thing I've been big on is I think all high schools especially should have a mandatory college and career readiness centers be mandatory, and kids have to take courses that, prepare them for life. That way, when you graduate high school, you know what you want to do with life, or you have a clear view instead of not knowing anything, and then you feel like you wasted your education. So just talk about that, and where you see that.
I mean, I totally agree with you. I think the thing is, like, I don't know how other countries, what their like public schools are like, but for the most part, yeah, like you do have college preparedness. You have prep schools. Prep schools are literally preparatory schools,
Mm-hmm.
and prep schools are expensive, so most people don't have access to them. A lot of what you learn in college is determined by where you live. So not in college, in high school. So if you don't live in like as a neighborhood that has the resources to invest in education, they probably won't be able to invest in college preparedness. If you live in a neighborhood like kind of like where we grew up, you have some resources. Then if you live in a neighborhood that's very wealthy, you have probably a lot. And then if you go to a private school, you literally have like a straight line, more or less. And you have access to it more. So even if you don't want to take it, you have the options there.
Yeah.
I think that I think it's totally important. Like there's a lot that I think, I don't know how I mean, I would say like every state's different too. So, I've heard California and Boston, Massachusetts have really good high school, like public schools. So it could be different there. But I feel like at least in Texas, like school is just like learn how to take tests. And like there was nothing in high school that I learned that I feel prepared me for life. Nothing. Not that I can think of. I mean, social skills you learn as you go, basic math and stuff, like, yeah. But as far as like taxes, I will say maybe my government class prepared me for like how to understand American life, but like I could also have learned that one. Like there's like taxes, mortgages, loans, personal finance, like tools you actually need. None of that I learned in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that in college. Like I took a class already, and it's not like it's even mandatory in college. So I mean, of course, I have my conspiracies as to like why we don't learn these things.
What kind of conspiracy?
Well, I mean, it's just like if you don't, I feel like if you it knowledge is power, like you said. So if people have knowledge to like do certain things, they're not gonna to do. If people know how to navigate like certain institutions, certain things, they're not gonna be. They're not gonna like maybe like be prone to make certain mistakes that a lot of people have to learn through trial by fire. Like they have to learn because they don't have, like you said, like you mentioned something. I forgot what it was, but you basically said like something to the effect of like not everybody goes to college. Not everybody goes to college. No, you mentioned something about like not everybody goes to college, which is a good point. Not everybody goes to college, and not everybody has access to the same network. So a lot of like the stock market, for example, most people don't know how to navigate the stock market like efficiently and effectively. People that do, they learn through their parents' network, or maybe they learn in school somehow. But like most people don't know how to do that. So when you think about like student loans, filling out certain things like for aid, like buying a house for the first time. If you don't have somebody, a lot of times you can find what you need, but it's so much easier whenever you literally have somebody there, like holding your hand and like taking you on that journey. You know what I mean? Not everybody has access to the same things. And so, it's a very, I think I think that kind of goes to like drive home the point of like the rich keep getting richer because they tell each other the same secrets. And unless you have access, unless you have exposure, or unless you can, I guess, infiltrate like their circles, like, you have to, it's a haul to like learn things. And of course, like people will say, oh, well, everything's on the internet these days. But like I said, thoughts are
has internet.
Okay, there you go. Not everybody has internet. So again, it's like you have to realize that that's kind of just what I think. Like people are not given the same access to information because, like you said, knowledge is power, and if everybody knows the same things, it puts us on the equal playing field. But then I guess maybe some yeah, that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, knowledge is power, and if everybody has knowledge, and everybody has power. So
Yeah, no, I'll expand on it even deeper because in public health you study this. So they call it disparity, right? Health disparity. You hear that a lot, especially now with COVID, right? The people who are rich and who are wealthy, which again, you worked and you got it. So I'm not taking anything away from that. What I am acknowledging though is that when you have access to more stuff, you keep the funds amongst the top, right? For
Yep.
those who don't have the knowledge and the awareness, they don't know largely they don't get the help largely because they don't know that they don't know what it is or how to get it.
Hmm.
That's the main thing you see, right? Me who and we went to U of H, right, which is in Third Ward. Third Ward is a impoverished sector of Houston, Texas, right? And you see it firsthand how, okay, because these people don't have access to these resources, they don't have access to clean food, they don't have access to good food, good water, this type of thing. They largely are without. And because they're without, those people generally get sick a lot more frequently, right? So it's the same thing. And then, okay, when they want to go to the doctor, they want to go get help, they have to charge. They get charged more for it per visit. Well, I don't have the money to afford it, so how am I going to get it? Okay, you can get Medicare, Medicaid, then that's a whole hassle in itself, right? And also people frown upon those types of things, just because the way they say it is that's taking money out of my pocket, which honestly, it's fair to say, but it's also you have to see the big picture. If you have a healthy society, if you have a more educated society, I've always believed that if you have those two things from the bottom up, you just create a better system rather than saying that those people at the bottom, don't deserve things because either that I don't feel like they worked hard enough for it or they didn't do what I did. They may not have had the opportunities that you had, right? Like one thing I've always said is the fact that we had two parents put us already way above and way ahead of most people, especially most people I grew up with, right? A
Hmm.
lot of my friends growing up had came from single parent households. So I understood that and I understood the struggle that came with it, not only from money, but from personal development and things of that nature, right? So I've always had a level of sensitivity to those types of people, or like to people who I see are struggling, right? Maybe that's part of why helping people was so big to me was because I saw what it did to the people who didn't have access to those things. So it's like education was big on because we had a smart dad, we had a successful dad. So I had that example exposed to me, right? And so then seeing other people where it's like, okay, I just didn't know that I could do this or do that. Oh no, you can, this type of thing. Then us moving, here and seeing it even further, where now I'm seeing not only people with two parent households, but seeing wealthy households and seeing how they think and being able to probe their brains. I'm like, it's all access and it's all just dedication that they had, and that's really the only difference. It's not so much that they're better people or they're born better, they're born at an advantage. They had access to opportunities that others don't, right?
Yep.
And that's the whole thing.
There's a book that I read years ago, like 5 years ago, called Outliers, and basically it lays out that fact. Like when you look at, Microsoft founder Bill Gates or even like Mark Zuckerberg, I'm not sure about Jeff Bezos, but they came from upper middle class backgrounds. They went to Harvard. I think Jeff Bezos, I'm not sure about Jeff Bezos, but like it's easy to make money when you have money.
Yep.
And like Mark Zuckerberg, went to Harvard, dropped out, created his app. Bill Gates grew up upper middle class in Seattle. You can bet on yourself. Like most people I know, if they wanted to like take a year off to pursue a dream of theirs, whether it's like a business or like an artistic dream, they could afford to do that.
Hmm.
But most people don't have that luxury when you have money because you can allocate your resources to something that you're passionate about.
Hmm.
And that goes back to access. Like you have the access and the privilege to take a year off, create your app, live with your parents, them not worry about like you don't have to pay, you don't help your parents.
Yeah, I mean, I think but having said all of that, though, you know, there have been people, and everybody always talks about the Cinderella story, or like the people who came from the ghetto, came from the impoverished backgrounds, and were able to make it, right? while yes, that is possible, we shouldn't expect that of people. We shouldn't expect, oh no, you have to come from the slums and start way behind and have to do all this struggling just to get ahead. No, everybody should be put on the same playing field. That's what people are fighting for today. It's just we want the same chance that anybody has. And then whoever decides to put in the work to be successful, is who achieves that outcome. But I think too frequently it's not everybody starts on the same starting line, and then those who had the head start stay ahead. Those who were behind don't always have the resiliency to put in the work to catch up or to get ahead, if you will. They look at it, they say, those people are where I wish I could be, but I'll never get there, and they never try, right? And that's one mentality. While I never had that, I also had to develop the fearlessness to be able to put my neck out and say, okay, I'm gonna try things that are out of my comfort zone, and hope for the best, but I gotta try and I gotta have confidence in myself, and I think that's the thing people are missing. Outside of the access to care is also the confidence to try and to, you know, not be afraid to fail. I think if people have that, then more people will be able to go about finding the purpose and performing the purpose with more confidence and with more conviction, and not be so hesitant to be like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this, or I don't know if I can do this, right? No. If you have a society that's resilient, it's prosperous.
Yeah, I agree. I think, yeah, like what you said, it's like there I've seen quotes like and quotes and articles, but I can't think of anything specific. But like a society that has everyone employed, working, benefiting, contributing, wealthy, it benefits. Those are the most productive society. And I think what you said, it's like people just want access. Because like I was this is so random, but I was thinking about like the beauty industry yesterday, and like the fact that Rihanna
Yeah.
is a girl from a small island. I think she came from humble beginnings, and now she's one of the wealthiest self-made people in the world. And it's like that is such like an abnormal thing. Like that's so hard. Like she was a successful musician, which is hard in itself. Then she transitioned into becoming a successful um, entrepreneur. And
Mhm.
again, like she started from very like humble beginnings, and it's like they're in even like on a more smaller scale. Like there are so many people that I know I've worked with, I've come across, didn't come from like the easiest backgrounds, didn't have the most, but they've made a lot of themselves.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's not impossible, and it's definitely like there are so many success stories out there, whether we know them or not. But it's like we as a society need to make sure that like if we have privilege, we're sharing our privilege, and that we need to hold people in power accountable to make sure that everybody has the same access and opportunities as possible,
Mhm.
because there's only so much we can do, and it's really just about like people who make these decisions making the decisions that get everybody an equal piece of the pie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no way we can live in this society. I mean, you look at a place like Sweden, which is very like which is pretty equal. That there's really no like there's not a huge wealth disparities. There's
Mhm.
going to be, of course, outliers who are like wealthy families and people who aren't as wealthy. But at the end of the day, it's like most people are pretty equal, and that should be the goal. It shouldn't be like we're going to look up to this self-made billionaire, because everybody can't be a billionaire. But like everybody should be able to like have a good life and stay stable life and have access. And then people can grow from there. People can decide, I just like this nice, quiet life in the countryside. I want to be a billionaire, and I want to do this, this, this. It's
Mhm.
about giving people a fair shake,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
And everybody should have access to. Everybody should be able to wake up, eat 3 square meals, and have access to water, shelter. That's the main thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't.
And since we're on education, they should have an equal, fair, good education. Same
Exactly.
quality. Yeah.
Like I feel like America largely needs to get out of this expectation of people having to overcome Cinderella stories. It's like now that's become too much of the norm. I feel like it's like if oh no, that person who grew up ghetto and poor and hungry and starving, and then they made it out of something. See, you can do that. You should be doing that. Like, no, it shouldn't be the case. Like, you had a regular life. You got through school. You were educated. You went to college if you chose to do college, or if not, then you were able to find your life's purpose and your life's mission, you were able to fulfill it, and you lived a good life. Now if people want to be wealthy, because I'm a person who wants to obtain wealth as well, you know, if you want to go about that, okay, I was able to say that I set out a goal and I went out and achieved it, right? That's the thing. Everybody should be able to fulfill their own life's path. There shouldn't be, pre-existing conditions that hinder you. Is the main thing.
Yeah, that's true. Like there shouldn't be, everybody should have a, like I said, everybody should have a fair shake. That's really what I think, this whole kind of conversation boils down to. It's like, no, not the whole thing, but like, it's like people need to be able to be given the right access so that they can explore all their options and see what it is they want to contribute to society.
Yeah. I mean, closing out and just in the big picture, people just got to control what they can control, right? And do what they can, right? Not everybody's going to start off from the same starting point. That's just the reality of life. As much as we dislike it, as much as we want to change, it just is what it is, right? And so with that, you have to be able to take life by the horns and say, look, this is what it is, this is what it came from, and I'm gonna do the best I possibly can. And as long as I try to achieve the highest height that I can, I'll be successful in that manner, right? It's not about status. It's not about I'm successful because other people define me as such. I think that was a mindset I had to get out of. I'm not successful because somebody else said so. I'm successful because I said so, or I'm going to attain success because I believe I can.
Exactly. Yeah, I think, like you said, people have to define success for themselves. If being successful to you is 300,000 followers on Instagram and a six-figure job, if success to you is you travel across the world and you see as much of the world as possible, and you don't necessarily feel the need to be in one city or space. That's good, like, because you can't live, like I said, like nobody else can live your life but you. So success, your life journey, it's all up to you. And yeah, the sooner you get out of that, the better. You get out of like the whole day. The sooner like you can move away from like living your life and like what other people think, the more you'll live. The more you'll enjoy. Like the more you're gonna live the most authentic life you can.
Absolutely. Yeah. Closing out, we will always have to leave, a final nugget of wisdom to the next generation. My thing is to them, what I always teach people is, you just have to live the life you want and run your own race. That's the main thing I tell.
Yeah.
And I believe that. But for you, what would be your next, your final nugget of wisdom you'd impart to the next generation?
I mean, I think that's it. Like, find your own way, find your lane, stay like not stay in it, but like find your lane, do the best you can at it, determine all those things, what's the best, what's successful, what you want to do, determine that for you. Like I've said this the third time I'm gonna say it because I'm gonna keep saying it. Like nobody can live your life for you.
For sure.
Everything you do, you need to make sure you're doing it for you and not for them, or them. It's for you. So make sure that I would say when it comes to finding a career, understand what you want your life to look like, understand who you are as a person and what you want to do, like what you feel you're good at, genuinely. And then, just try to live the life that feels the most authentic to you.
Yeah. Well said. Couldn't have said it better. That's a wrap. Episode 14, For Insight Podcast. I want to thank my big sis Vivian for coming on with me today. Thank you, Vivian. You can catch this on YouTube, Spotify, all platforms streaming podcasts. Thank y'all.